The sun was setting on the horizon, casting a soft, golden light over the crystal-clear waters. Luke and I stood side by side on the balcony of our honeymoon suite, our hands loosely intertwined, but a strange tension hung between us. Everything was supposed to be perfect, but I could feel the weight of the mistake I'd made pressing down on me, suffocating any joy that should have filled this moment. "Look at that view," Luke said, his voice warm, trying to break the silence. I smiled weakly, my gaze following the direction of his, but my mind was far from the view. It kept drifting back to that text, the message I had sent to James. The one I couldn't take back. "Marrying you but still love you." I felt my stomach twist every time the words played through my mind. The truth was, this honeymoon was supposed to be the start of a new chapter for us. Luke and I had been together for 2 years, engaged for almost 6 months. Everything seemed perfect on paper. He was kind, caring, everything I had dreamed of. And yet, there I was, miles away from home, about to marry the man I had chosen, while my heart still echoed with remnants of someone I had left behind. It had been months since I had ended things with James. Our relationship had been intense, too intense, perhaps, and we'd fallen into toxic patterns that I couldn't ignore any longer. He wanted control, constantly questioning my every move, accusing me of things I hadn't done. But he also made me feel alive in a way I had never felt before. Passion, drama, unpredictability, it had been a whirlwind. And I'd walked away, thinking I'd find peace in a quieter life with Luke. But the problem was, no matter how far I ran, a piece of me would always belong to James. As I stood there with Luke, the sunset fading behind us, I felt like a stranger to myself. I had chosen Luke, yes, but the message I had sent to James in the heat of a lonely, vulnerable moment showed how deeply confused I still was. I had never meant for Luke to find it. I thought I'd erased it, convinced it was just a foolish lapse in judgment. But when Luke had grabbed my phone earlier that day to check something, his eyes had caught the message. I had tried to brush it off, to pretend it was nothing more than a mistake, a drunken slip-up. But Luke wasn't buying it. The hurt in his eyes, the subtle way he'd withdrawn when I tried to assure him it meant nothing, it told me everything I needed to know. My world was crumbling, piece by piece, and all I could do was watch. "I know something's bothering you," Luke said, his voice quieter now, more serious. I blinked, pulling myself out of my thoughts. His eyes were on me, studying me carefully. "It's nothing," I said quickly, forcing a smile. "You've been distant all day." "What's going on, really?" I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. What could I say? How could I explain the emotions that had been weighing on me without breaking everything we had built together? I loved Luke. I truly did. But James had always had a way of making me second-guess myself, of making me question what I really wanted. I had thought that when I left him, I was done with those feelings, but the message had proven that wasn't the case. "You can tell me anything," Luke urged, his voice soft, but there was a tremor in it, one I had never heard before. "I'm not going to judge you, but I need to know what's going on." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. What could I say to fix this? To undo the damage I'd caused? How could I make him understand that it was a momentary lapse, a mistake I regretted deeply? I made a mistake, I whispered, my throat tightening. He frowned, the muscles in his jaw tightening. What kind of mistake? I swallowed hard. This was it. The moment I would have to face the consequences of my actions. "I sent a message to James," I said, barely above a whisper. "A stupid, foolish message. I didn't mean it. It was a mistake, Luke." His eyes hardened. He didn't say anything for a long moment. The silence between us felt heavy, suffocating. I could feel my pulse quickening, my hands growing clammy. "Why didn't you tell me about this before?" Luke finally asked, his voice strained. "I didn't think it was important," I said quickly. "It didn't mean anything. I swear. I was upset, confused, and I did something I regret." Luke let out a deep sigh, running his hand through his hair. "So, what does that mean? You still have feelings for him?" I shook my head, desperate to reassure him. "No, I don't. I swear. I love you, Luke. This is just my past catching up with me. I thought I had moved on, but clearly, I haven't fully processed everything." His face softened, but the pain in his eyes was unmistakable. "I don't know if I can just forget this, you know? This is big. You're about to marry me, and yet you're still holding on to someone else." The words stung. He was right. How could I explain the mess of emotions swirling inside me? How could I make him see that my heart had room for both the man I was about to marry and the man I had once loved? "I'm sorry," I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." Luke didn't respond right away. Instead, he turned away from me, walking toward the edge of the balcony, staring out into the distance. I could feel the distance between us growing by the second. My heart ached for him, but even more for the fact that I had put us in this situation. "Luke," I began, but he held up a hand, signaling for me to stop. "I need some time, okay? Just let me think. I don't know what to say right now." And just like that, the warm evening air that had once felt comforting now seemed cold and empty. I stood there alone, my heart breaking as I watched the man I loved walk away from me. The morning came slowly, a soft light spilling through the curtains, but it felt like a fog had settled over everything. I could barely bring myself to open my eyes, my mind too tangled in the mess I had created. Luke was still asleep beside me, his back to me, the space between us feeling like an abyss I couldn't cross. I had never felt so distant from him, even though he was right there. I didn't know when exactly he had drifted off to sleep last night, but I had stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The words I had said. The look in his eyes when I confessed the truth. I could still feel the weight of his silence pressing down on me, suffocating me. I had tried to apologize, tried to explain, but nothing seemed to make it better. The damage was done. I wanted to reach out to him, to hold him and make everything right again, but the gap between us felt insurmountable. I had lied to myself for so long, thinking I could move on from James, but the truth was, I was still emotionally tangled with him. Luke didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of that. He deserved more than my mess of broken promises. After what felt like hours, Luke stirred beside me, his body shifting under the sheets. He groaned softly, stretching his arms over his head. I remained still, my heart hammering in my chest. I couldn't face him yet. Not when I wasn't sure how to make things right. "Hey," he said quietly, his voice rough from sleep. "You awake?" I nodded, though he couldn't see me. My throat tightened, making it difficult to speak. The lump that had settled there refused to go away. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice full of hesitation. I took a deep breath, then slowly turned to face him. His eyes were open now, looking at me with a mixture of confusion and hurt. I hated seeing that look in his eyes. I had never wanted to be the source of his pain. "I'm sorry," I whispered, the words feeling so small, so inadequate compared to what I had done. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Luke didn't respond right away. Instead, he sat up slowly, his gaze still fixed on me. He seemed to be processing everything, weighing my words, trying to decide if he could believe me. "Why didn't you tell me about the message earlier?" he asked, his voice low but steady. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my own racing thoughts. "I was embarrassed," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want you to think I still had feelings for him. I thought I could erase it, forget about it, and move on. But I didn't." The silence between us stretched, the tension in the air thick and suffocating. I could feel his gaze on me, searching for something, some sign that I wasn't lying, that my love for him was real and not just a way to escape my past with James. "I'm not asking you to just forget about it," Luke said, his voice quiet, but there was a firmness to it. "I need to know that you're fully here. With me. Not stuck in the past." "I am," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I am fully here, Luke. But I don't know how to prove that to you. I don't know how to make it right." Luke exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. "You don't just erase something like that, you know? You can't just send a message like that and pretend it didn't mean anything. It's not that simple." I nodded slowly, the sting of his words hitting me harder than I expected. He was right. It wasn't that simple. I had done something unforgivable, something that I couldn't undo with a few words or a few apologies. "I know," I whispered. "I know I messed up. I thought I could leave that part of my life behind, but it's clear I haven't. And I've hurt you in the process." Luke's face softened slightly, but the pain was still there, evident in his eyes. "I don't know what to do with this. I don't know if I can just pretend everything is fine." I could feel the crack in his voice, and it made my heart ache even more. I had never wanted to hurt him. But now, it felt like everything was falling apart, and I had no idea how to fix it. "I don't want you to pretend," I said softly. "I don't want you to just move on like it didn't happen. I want to make it right. I want to show you that you're the one I want, that this," I gestured between us, "is real." Luke met my gaze, his eyes searching mine for something he couldn't find. The uncertainty was there, heavy between us. "I don't know if you can make it right," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can ever trust you fully again." The words stung like a slap to the face, but I knew he wasn't saying them out of malice. He was saying them because he didn't know if he could continue living with the doubt I had planted in his mind. And I didn't blame him. I had betrayed his trust in a way that could never be fully undone. "I never meant to hurt you," I said, the tears finally breaking free, slipping down my cheeks. "You're everything to me, Luke. I just need you to believe that." Luke didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the ocean below. I stayed in bed, my heart in my throat, waiting for him to say something, anything. "I need some space," he finally said, his voice low. "I can't keep doing this right now." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I nodded, understanding. I had crossed a line, and now it was up to me to figure out how to earn his trust back. But the truth was, I wasn't sure if I could. And as I lay there in the silence, I wondered if I'd just lost him for good. The days that followed were a blur of tension and silence. Luke had asked for space, and I gave it to him. We barely spoke, just the occasional exchange of words, mostly about logistics or things we had to get done. I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't know how to undo what I'd done. I tried to focus on the wedding, to distract myself from the gnawing guilt eating at me, but it was impossible. Every time I looked at Luke, I saw the hurt in his eyes, the shadow of betrayal I had cast over him. It was like living with a stranger, and I hated that. I hated what I had done to us, to him. I was sitting on the balcony of our hotel room late one evening, the cool breeze carrying the salty scent of the ocean, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from James. I froze, staring at the screen as my heart skipped a beat. What did he want now? My fingers hovered over the screen, but I couldn't bring myself to open the message. Part of me wanted to delete it without reading it, but I knew that wouldn't change anything. I opened it. I've been thinking a lot about you lately. I know things ended badly, but I never stopped caring about you. I know you're engaged now, but I need to know, do you still think about me? The words hit me like a tidal wave, sweeping away the fragile hold I had on my emotions. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the message, my mind racing. What was I supposed to say? What was I supposed to feel? The love I once had for James felt like a distant memory, yet here I was, holding his words in my hands like they still meant something. I didn't respond. Not right away. I couldn't. But the message lingered in my mind, occupying the space between me and everything else. It haunted me. That night, when I finally crawled into bed next to Luke, I could feel the distance between us, like an invisible wall that neither of us knew how to break down. He had his back to me again, his breathing slow and steady, but I could tell he wasn't asleep. Neither of us had been sleeping well. Luke, I whispered, my voice barely audible in the dark room. He didn't respond right away, and for a moment, I thought he hadn't heard me. But then I felt him shift, turning towards me. I'm sorry, I said, my voice breaking. I'm so sorry for everything. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to. I want to show you that I love you. I don't want to lose you. There was a long silence, and I could feel the tension building, thick and heavy, like we were standing on the edge of something we couldn't see. I don't know if you can fix it, he said, his voice low and filled with uncertainty. I don't know if I can trust you again. His words were like daggers to my heart. I wanted to reach out, to hold him, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. The damage was done, and no amount of apologies could erase the hurt I had caused. I never meant to hurt you, I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. You mean everything to me. I just didn't know how to let go of the past. And now I've ruined everything. I could hear his breathing change, the subtle shift in his chest as he exhaled slowly. He didn't speak for a while, and I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with all of this, he said finally, his voice filled with a mix of frustration and exhaustion. I want to believe you, I do. But I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can forgive you. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have the words to fix this. All I had were my feelings, my regret, and the love I still felt for him. But was that enough? Would it ever be enough? I don't expect you to forgive me right away, I said quietly. I know I've betrayed your trust, and I understand if you need time. But I need you to know that I'm here, and I want to make things right. Luke turned away from me then, his back to me again. I didn't know if he was asleep or if he was just pretending to be. Either way, I knew that things had changed. I had crossed a line, and I wasn't sure how to return to the place we had once been. The next few days were a whirlwind. We went through the motions, acting like everything was normal when in reality, nothing was normal anymore. I could feel the distance growing between us with every passing hour. Luke was pulling away from me, and I was powerless to stop it. It was on the third day of our honeymoon when things took an unexpected turn. Luke had left early in the morning to take a walk along the beach. I decided to stay behind, giving him space, but also trying to figure out where I stood. I had to come to terms with what I had done, what I had let happen, and I knew that if there was any chance of saving us, I had to be honest with myself. I picked up my phone to check my messages, still haunted by James's words. I didn't want to reply, but a part of me couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was something I had missed. And then I saw it. The notification. It wasn't from James. It was from Luke. My heart stopped. I found your message. I felt my stomach drop. He must have been going through my phone, maybe trying to find some sort of clarity about everything. And now he knew. He knew about the message I had sent James. The message that had triggered everything. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, the weight of the situation crashing down on me. What was I supposed to do now? What could I say to make him understand? But I already knew the answer. There was nothing I could say. The truth had come to light, and it was too late for me to take it back. All I could do now was wait. Wait for him to decide if he was willing to fight for us, or if this was the end of everything. The silence between Luke and me felt suffocating, like a thick fog that refused to lift no matter how hard I tried to push through it. I had waited for his response, hoping he would reach out, give me some kind of sign that he was willing to talk, to work through it. But nothing came. The hours dragged on, each one heavier than the last. I could feel my own anxiety building, the knot in my stomach tightening with every passing minute. The next morning, Luke was distant, more than usual. I watched him as he moved around the hotel room, collecting his things, packing in that way he always did, methodical, quiet, not looking at me. He hadn't said much since the text message. He had barely acknowledged my apology, barely spoken a word to me beyond the essentials. I wanted to ask him what was going on, but I was too scared of hearing the answer. I didn't want to hear that it was over, that he couldn't move past this, that he couldn't forgive me. But a small part of me feared that's exactly what he was thinking. He walked past me without saying anything, heading to the balcony to light a cigarette. I could see his profile through the glass, his figure framed by the morning sunlight. He was distant, lost in thought, and I couldn't help but feel the painful weight of what I had done pressing down on me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I needed to talk, to say something, anything. So I stood up, slowly crossing the room to where he was. When I reached the balcony door, I hesitated for a moment. "Luke," my voice barely broke the silence, a whisper that seemed too fragile for such a heavy moment. He turned, his eyes meeting mine, but there was nothing warm in them. His gaze was cold, distant. He took another drag from his cigarette, not answering me right away. "I never meant for this to happen," I said, my words tumbling out in a rush. "I never meant to hurt you. I was stupid. I was confused, and I made a mistake. A big one. But I swear to you, I love you. I want this to work." He exhaled sharply, flicking the cigarette to the ground before grinding it under his heel. "You say that, but you didn't act like it. You didn't act like you loved me when you messaged him. When you told him that you still had feelings for him." I flinched at the words. They hit me harder than I expected. The truth stung, but I knew it was deserved. "I didn't mean it that way," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "It wasn't supposed to be anything. I was just... I don't know what I was thinking. It was a moment of weakness. I didn't think it through. Is that supposed to make it better?" His voice was quiet, but the hurt was unmistakable. "You reached out to him. You told him you still loved him. How am I supposed to look past that?" "I don't know," I whispered, feeling the tears start to well up in my eyes. "I don't know how to fix this. I can't change what happened. I don't know how to make things right again. He didn't answer me at first. Instead, he stood there, staring out at the ocean, the waves crashing against the shore below. It was like he was trying to decide whether he could forgive me or if it was too late. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the battle between love and betrayal, and it shattered me. I don't know if I can forgive you, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can trust you again. I felt my heart sink. Luke, please. I'm begging you. I made a mistake. I messed up, but I'm here. I'm still here. I want us. I want this. He turned to look at me, his face unreadable. I don't know if that's enough, he said softly. You hurt me, and it's going to take more than just words to fix it. I nodded, feeling defeated. I understand, I said, my voice shaking. I'll give you space. I know I've broken your trust, and I can't expect you to just forget about it. But please, don't give up on us. Don't give up on me. There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought he might say something more. But instead, he just walked past me, heading back into the room, leaving me standing there on the balcony, alone with my thoughts. I don't know how long I stood there after he left. It could have been minutes, hours. Time seemed to stretch on endlessly, and all I could do was think about the mess I had made. I had hurt the one person I loved most in this world, and now, I didn't know if I could fix it. When I went back inside, Luke was already packing his suitcase. He was moving quickly, efficiently, like he had made up his mind. I felt the familiar pang of panic rising in my chest. Where are you going? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but I could hear the tremor in it. I don't know, he said flatly, not looking at me. I need some time. I need to think. Luke, I reached out to him, but he pulled away. I need time, okay? His voice was cold now, distant. I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with you. I stood frozen, unable to move. It was like everything was slipping through my fingers. The life I thought we had was crumbling, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I'm sorry, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. He didn't respond. Instead, he continued packing his things, a cold wall between us. And just like that, it felt like everything I had built with him, everything we had shared, was slipping away. He left an hour later, without saying goodbye. He just walked out of the hotel room, leaving me behind with nothing but the silence and the crushing weight of my regret. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door he had just walked through, wondering if I would ever see him again. Would we ever find our way back to each other? Or had I lost him for good? As I sat down on the bed, my phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a new message. I hesitated before opening it. But when I did, I felt the blood drain from my face. It was from James. And it was a message that would change everything. I can't stop thinking about you. I know it's wrong, but I need to see you. Please. Let's talk. The message was simple, yet it carried so much weight. It was everything I had tried to avoid, everything I had feared. And in that moment, I realized that everything I had been running from was about to catch up with me. I ask everyone who likes our content to subscribe to the channel. It will help us a lot, and it will be a pleasure to have you here with us.